Classical Music Uncovered, by Maestro Aurelio Porphyry.
Hello and welcome to my podcast Classical Music Uncensored. I am Aurelio Porphyry. We are used to think of musical styles as being completely autonomous and separate from each other. For heaven's sake, this may sometimes be true, but not always. Let's think, for example, of the last century. Which would you think was the musical genre born in this century and which has been most successful? Few would have doubts. It was jazz. Jazz was the great musical novelty of the 20th century. You may think that it was a world apart from that of classical music. This is partly true, but not entirely. It will surprise you to know that some composers in the field of classical music have shown a keen interest in jazz, composers such as Giacomo Puccini, Igor Stravinsky, and even Francis Poulenc, of whom Tom Huizenga said that Poulenc wrote music that popped like corks from champagne, pieces dizzy with the sounds of Parisian music halls and jazz. Perhaps you would be surprised to know that among these serious composers who showed interest in jazz was a bespectacled Russian musician, Dmitry Dmitrievich Šostakovič. This composer will be destined for fame for his many vocal and instrumental compositions, and was certainly one of the protagonists of the Russian school of his time, together with Sergei Sergeyevich Prokofiev and the already named Igor Fyodorovich Stravinsky. In fact, just looking at the photos of him, one immediately thinks of a pedantic professor far from everything and everyone. In reality, even if he had wanted to, he could not stay away from his Soviet government and from Stalin, who paid him a lot of attention that Shostakovich certainly did not like. As mentioned, the Russian musician had an interest in jazz, since in Russia there was also those who tried to promote this musical genre. Shostakovich composed 2 jazz suites, but some doubt that this is an appropriate name for this composition, which would have little in common with real jazz. A critic observes, quote, "Both of Shostakovich's jazz suites have a sort of end-of-the-pier quality to them. In truth, they bear the same relationship to authentic jazz as socks and sandals do to high fashion. This is deeply sugary music, created in direct response to the Soviet government's demand that more be done to reflect this emerging genre. It seems to me that the opinion is clear enough. In fact, in his 2 suites, one from 1934 and the other from 1938, there is little of proper jazz. It would seem more cabaret music, although certainly well written and with a certain measure of irony. There was some confusion regarding the Jazz Suite No. 2 and the suite for a variety orchestra. It seems that the Jazz Suite No. 2 was lost during the Second World War, and the piano sheet of the same was found in recent times and again orchestrated. The suite for variety orchestra has become known because in it there is the famous waltz, who was made famous by the film Eyes Wide Shut, directed by Stanley Kubrick. It is certainly a very catchy composition, and if you search YouTube, it will confuse you too, as it is sometimes referred to as part of one suite, sometimes the other. The Russian musician was certainly a leading musician, and is now one of the most recurring names in concert programs. And despite his serious appearance and the strict control to which he was subjected by the communist government, he was able to find in some of his compositions a lightness that few would have imagined. He was able to hide the many frustrations of a life spent protecting himself from Stalin to make room for a slight and perhaps mocking smile. Thank you very much for listening. I hope to have you again on our next podcast. Bye-bye.
Classical music uncovered by Maestro Aurelio Porfiry.